The Paladin is free on World of Tanks, and of course today's video is going to showcase what this thing can do. Is it overpowered? Is it good? Is it terrible? Should you even bother getting this thing? Essentially what you can do to get this tank in particular on World of Tanks console right now is complete the challenges for the Paladin. Of course, if you haven't already completed all of the challenges, and that is in the form of at least 2 so far, then you will not be able to get this for free. You need to have completed 3 Paladin challenges in order to get this for a full 100% discount. If you don't manage to do that, you do have to pay for the tank, but it is at like a 70% discount, I believe, if you complete 2 weeks out of the 4 weeks that it's available, and a 35% if you complete it within, I think it's like 1 week or something like that. Anyway, the Paladin, what does this tank actually offer you? Well, it is a tank that offers quite a different and varied kind of mismatch of different things. And this tank, it plays kind of like a heavy medium tank. And I guess it does have armour. You definitely can bounce around, especially off the turret armour of this thing. If you've played the Conqueror, or at least the Super Conqueror, you know the kind of armour that tanks like this have in the form of those kind of spaced armour on the turret. It allows you to have much stronger armour on the turret. It also stops a lot of those heat rounds that you see coming in. And yeah, generally, if you can get hold down in a position like this, then you can do okay. But remember, this tank's turret is not particularly amazing. You can get penned through the cupola because it does have quite a big one, and also the above the gun mantlet there is kind of a weak zone that like super high penetration tank destroyers will be able to go through you as well. But the one thing that you definitely have to be aware of, as we got hit just a second ago, is artillery, because this, as with all of the British heavy tanks, is a lumbering oaf, or at least it's a gigantic slob of hit points that the artillery can hit using that massive engine deck that you seem to have. Now, the key thing about the Paladin in terms of trying to avoid that is that it isn't necessarily all too slow. It's not the fastest tank, and in fact I would genuinely recommend actually using the engine power upgrade so that you can just get to places faster and maintain the speed faster. So kind of one thing that I always like to do on my tanks. Now then, we've taken the Paladin over on the left hand side of this map, and that is essentially to maintain this flank, because often a lot of the times you lose in the town is because no one went this way, and considering that there weren't that many people going this way, it was a good choice. Now it also means that we've been able to farm a lot of these tanks that have been facing us over here. We do, however, have some shots coming in from the middle of the map and the town area in the middle of the map. You can see the Churchill 7, he's in a very bad position, even made even worse by the fact that this heavy tank does in fact have far higher DPM and actual rate of fire than a lot of the other heavy tanks that you see. You can see here we have a 4.2 second reload. You also deal 240 damage per shot, which is really nice, and you're able to dish that out very nicely against a lot of the opponents that you'll be facing. And you can see here we're going for just easy shots. The accuracy of this main armament is fantastic as well, and that allows you to do things that a lot of the other tanks won't. One thing that you definitely want to be aware of is that the hull armour of this tank, as with all of the British heavy tanks, is pretty garbage, and it can definitely end you up being hit quite easily by the opposite numbers, and you get penned through the lower plate. But because of the DPM, often you can actually receive quite a few hits and also dish out the damage one-on-one. Obviously, if you're taking loads of hits from multiple different people, you're probably not going to be able to out-DPM them, probably not going to be able to out-DPM medium tanks, but then again, some heavy tanks can, like the Paladin, especially if you're coming up against the higher alpha damage mediums as opposed to the P shooters. Now then, in terms of this game and how we can kind of progress, it could potentially be lost, and that's all to do with this T54E2, because that tank can definitely rip you apart, and when you've only got 800 hit points left, then yeah, it could be very painful. You can see us here trying to go for the T54E2, and he throws himself away by just going out in the middle of the open in a giant crossfire by the enemy, or by us in fact. The MT-25 trying to run away, probably should have actually aimed that shot and I wouldn't have been so bad in terms of trying to miss him. Artillery comes in. Artillery is the thing that you need to be very worried about in this tank, as we've already talked about. But yeah, at this point, you know, we've got 832 hit points. Yes, there's a G-Saw that's going to be out there. But one thing that you'll notice about the Paladin is that it does in fact have pretty decent view range. And with decent view range, it allows you to kind of move forward as a medium would. Maybe not in the same capacity, because at the end of the day, it's a heavy and it doesn't get any bonuses from remaining like steady or anything like that. You basically get the same detection or concealment as you would if you were moving constantly, even when you're stationary in this thing. So it's not particularly the best, or at least it's not particularly the nicest for when you're trying to remain hidden, but you can definitely spot people, which is kind of what I like to do on this game with the Paladin. Play it fairly aggressively. Obviously don't go throwing yourself away, you're not a medium tank after all, but you can definitely move forward. Now what you see here is us actually spot the back chat and we flick onto him quite nicely. Artillery then misses us for 300 damage. Remember, that's a tier 6 tank that just hit me for about 300 damage, and they didn't even hit me because artillery things, they talk about tier 10 artillery, but tier 6 is just worse, and it also reloads in about like 8 seconds or something. But you can see here we picked up 6 enemies destroyed, 4,119 damage and 1,948 base experience. A fantastic round in the Paladin. And of course, let me know what you think of this tank for free. Do you think it's actually worth getting, or do you think it's pretty mediocre? Me personally, I think it's a very fantastic kind of brawling medium that you have to use your DPM and your knowledge of the game to have these results like you've just seen. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you did enjoy, and of course if you want to check out some other reviews, there'll be a gameplay and tank reviews playlist along with the latest update news on the left. I hope I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.